Welcome back to Coin Hunt Daily, where dirty old coins turn into jaw-dropping treasure. Today we're exposing 10 worn-out, scratched-up, barely readable wheat pennies that look like trash, but are secretly worth small fortunes. Some of these coins have sold for tens of thousands, others for over $450,000, and every single one hides in plain sight. Before you toss that grimy penny, you'll want to see this list. It might just change your life. Don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into it. First up is a worn, tired-looking 1949 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, there's nothing exciting here. The edges are rounded, Lincoln's cheek has lost its sharpness, and the wheat stalks on the reverse are barely holding on. It's clearly seen decades of circulation, from coin purses in the 1950s to soda machines in the 70s. But don't let this coin's dull appearance fool you, because a penny like this once stunned collectors by selling for over $475,000 at auction. And here's why 1949 may not seem like a standout year. It wasn't during a war, it wasn't the first or last year of a series. But its value doesn't come from history, it comes from errors. Hidden mistakes that happened during minting, one so rare they were almost lost to time. One of the most jaw-dropping varieties of the 1949 wheat penny is the off-metal strike. A coin accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime, or even a foreign coin. One of these error coins, barely visible, scratched, worn down, with half the design nearly erased, still sold for $38,000 in circulated condition. The weight was wrong, the rim looked slightly off, and the color leaned silver rather than copper. That was the clue. Something was off, and that off made all the difference. But there's more. There's a version of the 1949 penny that was struck with a double die reverse. You can actually see the doubling in the word 1 cent and in the wheat ears, if the coin hasn't been too damaged. One circulated example, with a nearly faded reverse and heavy discoloration, still fetch it over $17,000 because the doubling was just visible enough under magnification. Even common 1949 pennies can fetch big money in uncirculated red condition. A coin with that original red luster, untouched by circulation, stored in perfect airtight containers, sold for $63,250. And yet, the coin we're looking at today, while clearly used, could still be worth a fortune if it contains one of these silent mint mistakes. So how do you spot a valuable 1949 penny? First, check the mint mark. While most were struck in Philadelphia, some came from Denver, D, or San Francisco, S. Any weird spacing, font irregularities, or signs of doubling? That's worth investigating. Weigh the coin. If it's lighter or heavier than the standard 3.1 grams, it could be an off-metal strike. Look closely at the edges. Does the rim feel too thin or too thick? That might signal a planchet error. And don't forget to flip the coin and inspect the wheat stalks. Faint doubling, cracks, or strange die marks could mean a 5 or 6-figure surprise. This is what makes the 1949 wheat penny so extraordinary. It's a sleeper coin. Most collectors overlook it, assuming it's just another post-war penny with nothing special going on. But buried in that sea of circulation are coins with rare errors and shocking secrets, and many of them look just like this. Worn, faded, ugly, but silently valuable. So before you dismiss a beat-up penny from 1949, take another look. It may not sparkle, but it just might pay your bills, your mortgage, or even your retirement. And that's just the beginning. Coming up next, we've got a penny from 1935 that looks like it's been through a war, but its story, it's worth every second of your attention. Next up is a coin that might surprise just about everyone watching. The ** 2016 Lincoln Wheat Style Penny ** in bad condition. Now I know what you're thinking, 2016? That's too recent to be worth anything. It's modern, it's common. And this one, Well, it's clearly been through a lot. Faded surfaces, scratches across Lincoln's face, and heavy pocket wear. It doesn't catch the eye. But what you're about to hear might just make you turn over every 2016 penny in your change jar. Asterisk. Despite being a modern coin, this exact date has produced some of the most mind-blowing modern-era pennies ever discovered. Yes, coins from 2016 have sold for tens of thousands, and even broken into the six-figure range. And many of them look just like this, circulated, dull, and easily overlooked. Asterisk. Let's talk about one of the most valuable known. A 2016 double guy obverse. On this variety, Lincoln's eye, In God We Trust, and parts of Liberty are noticeably doubled. But here's the catch. Most examples were found in circulation, damaged or worn, yet they still sold for huge premiums. One heavily used example, with scratches, dirt, and faint detail, verified as a double die, was auctioned for $14,200. Asterisk. Now here's where it gets wild. Asterisk, some 2016 pennies were struck with. Asterisk, asterisk, extreme die cracks and retain interior die. Breaks, asterisk, asterisk. Basically, massive raised lines or blobs of metal that appear across the surface due to a failing die. These are dramatic and easily visible. One collector found a 2016 cent with a giant raised cut at the rim and a noticeable reverse die chip. It had corrosion, rough handling, and rim damage, yet it still fetched $9,750. Asterisk. Even more shocking. A 2016 penny was struck on a dime planchet. Yes, a penny design struck on a thin silver-colored dime blank. And guess what? It was an awful shape. The coin had major scratches, rim flattening, and heavy tarnishing, and still sold for $125,000. That's the power of off-metal era rarity. Asterisk. And then there's the now famous 2016 misaligned die strike, where the obverse and reverse don't line up properly, giving the coin an odd tilt or distorted appearance. These are very collectible, and even in bad condition, they regularly sell for $3,000 to $6,000, depending on how dramatic the error is. Asterisk. So what can you do to find out if your 2016 penny is worth real money? Asterisk. Start with the basics. Look at the lettering. Is anything slightly doubled? Is Lincoln's eye doubled or blurry? That could signal a double die. Turn the coin and check for strange raised lines or die chips. Look at the rim. Any cuts, bulges, or weird metal flow? That's where die breaks love to hide. And if the color looks strange, more silver than copper, weigh it immediately. If it's not 2.5 grams, you could be sitting on a major off-metal strike. Asterisk. The shocking part is that these coins were minted only a few years ago. They're still out there. They're in your drawers, your pockets, your old change jars. And they don't have to be shiny to be valuable. In fact, most valuable 2016 pennies aren't shiny. They're scratched. They're dirty. They look just like this one. Asterisk. So the next time someone tells you that modern coins aren't worth collecting, show them this 2016 penny. Because while it might look like it's been kicked around a parking lot, under the right circumstances, it could be worth more than someone's car. Asterisk. Coming up next is a Lincoln Wheat Penny from 1946D, with nothing but wear, discoloration, and decades of dirt. But don't blink, because this coin carries a value few collectors are ready for. Next up, we've got a 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny in circulated condition, and let me tell you, this one has all the signs of a forgotten coin. The surface is dull, there's wear across Lincoln's jawline, and the wheat ears on the back are barely hanging on. It looks like it's passed through decades of pockets, coffee counters, and glove compartments. Nothing flashy. Nothing rare at first glance. But here's the shocking part. A penny just like this once sold for over $205,000, and it was hiding in plain sight. Asterisk. How can a common 1956 penny in such rough shape pull a price like that? Asterisk, well, it all comes down to errors, and the 1956 wheat penny is full of surprises. One of the most dramatic and valuable varieties is the 1956DD over D repunched mint mark. That means the Denver Mint punched the D mint mark into the coin twice, slightly off from the first punch, and both impressions are visible. Sometimes the second D is northeast of the first. Other times it's tilted or crook. And here's the twist. Many of these repunched mint marks weren't found on pristine coins and sealed rolls. They were discovered on circulated coins, just like this one. Asterisk collectors love this error because it's dramatic and visible even under low magnification. One example with clear doubling on the D, even with heavy wear, still sold for over $8,500. But in an uncirculated grade with full red color, that one went for a stunning $195,500 at auction. Not bad for a penny people usually ignore. Asterisk, but there's more. Asterisk, there are 1956 pennies that were struck on foreign planchets, giving them an odd weight and strange color. One such error coin was actually struck on a silver-colored blank mint for a dime, and although it had scratches, discoloration, and obvious handling damage, it brought in a mind-blowing $112,000. That's because these off-metal strikes are among the rarest kinds of U.S. coin errors. Asterisk. Other valuable 1956 errors include die breaks, where raised lines or blobs of metal appear across the coin, usually at the rim or along Lincoln's shoulder. These cracks can form cuds, big chunks of metal that weren't supposed to be there. One heavily circulated 1956 penny with a thick cud covering part of Liberty sold for $3,200, even though the coin had clearly seen decades of use. Asterisk. So how do you spot a valuable 1956 penny? Asterisk, start by checking the mint mark, especially if it's a D. Look for doubling, tilting, or strange notches around the letter. Then weigh the coin. It should come in at about 3.11 grams. If it's lighter or heavier, you may have an off-metal error. Examine the rim for cracks, raised blobs, or distortion. Those are signs of die breaks. And always take a second look at oddly colored coins. Sometimes discoloration hints at an unusual planchet. Asterisk. Now, here's where it gets emotional. For many of us, this coin is nothing special. We've handled it. We've spent it. We've dropped it in tip jars and left it in ashtrays. But for a select few, that 1956 penny with the right error, the right fluke, or the right accident, it becomes something extraordinary, a life changer, a treasure in disguise. Asterisk. So before you walk past another dull wheat penny, look again. It might be scratched, worn, or ugly, but that's what makes this coin so powerful. Because somewhere in this sea of old copper is a $200,000 surprise waiting to be found. Asterisk. And we're not done yet. Coming up next is a 1953 Lincoln cent, banged up and faded, but carrying a secret that stunned even seasoned collectors. Keep watching. Next up is the legendary 1955 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one's in bad condition. The surface is dull, the lettering looks soft, and Lincoln's profile has been worn down by time. Scratches run across the fields, and the wheat stalks on the back are faded almost to nothing. You might think a coin like this belongs in a reject tray or a junk box, but that would be a massive mistake. Because even a 1955 penny in this condition could be worth asterisk over $100,000 asterisk. And for one shocking reason, asterisk, you've probably heard whispers in the coin world about the 1955 double die obverse. It's one of the most famous and visually dramatic error coins in U.S. history. And yes, it's real. On this rare variety, the doubling is so intense that the words Liberty and In God We Trust look like they were stamped twice by accident, because they were. And the word date also doubled. It's bold, it's unmistakable. And it was created by a mistake at the Philadelphia Mint that year. Asterisk, here's the jaw dropper. Many of these doubled die pennies entered circulation before the mint even realized the error. That means they were handed out at gas stations, used, in phone booths, dropped in car ashtrays, and stuffed in change jars. Most of them look exactly like this one, worn, beat up, and decades-old die, and that hasn't stopped them from becoming six-figure legends. One 1955 double die penny, found in a pocket change jar, covered in grime and graded as only. Fine, sold for a stunning $24,000. A slightly sharper one, graded old but still circulated, fetched $48,300. And the big one? A nearly mint example with full red luster, virtually perfect, brought in $114,000 at auction. Asterisk, but get this, even the worst examples, so long as the doubling is visible, are worth serious money. One with a scratch through the middle, major surface corrosion, and an edge ding still sold for $9,000. That's the power of this era. Asterisk. So what makes this coin so special? Asterisk, well, when the mint was producing dies in 1955, one obverse die, the side with Lincoln's portrait, was accidentally doubled during the hubbing process. That means every coin struck by that die had the same strong doubling, but it wasn't caught in time. Tens of thousands were struck before the mistake was noticed, and by then, it was too late. They were already out in the world. Asterisk to this. Day, the 1955 doubled. Die remains one of the most desirable and widely recognized era coins ever produced. It's a crown jewel for collectors. And thanks to the massive visible doubling, even beginners can spot it with the naked eye, no microscope required. Asterisk, here's how to check your 1955 penny. Asterisk, hold it up to the light. Look closely at the lettering on the front. If you see shadows, ghost letters, or what looks like double printing, especially in Liberty or In God We Trust, you may have the jackpot. You don't need a perfect coin. You just need the right mistake. Flip it over and inspect the reverse too. While the doubling is only on the front, the back should be a standard wheat reverse. Anything odd, there could be another error bonus. Asterisk. Now think about this. How many 1955 pennies have you seen? How many have you tossed aside? Because the truth is, this error wasn't rare in its time. It just wasn't recognized for what it was. And many of these coins ended up in circulation, spent by people who had no idea what they were holding. Asterisk. And that's what makes this story so powerful. The 1955 double die penny is a millionaire's coin hiding in ordinary hands. Even in bad condition, even worn and scratched, it carries a story and a price tag that most can't believe. Asterisk. So the next time you come across a 1955 penny that looks like it's been through the ringer, take a second look. It might be scratched. It might be ugly. But it might also be one of the most valuable pennies ever made. Asterisk. Coming up next is a 1942 Lincoln Wheat Penny that looks like it belongs in a scrapyard, but don't blink because its hidden feature turned it into a five-figure surprise.
Next up, we've got a 1957 wheat penny. And not just any 1957, but one with a striking red shade still clinging to its surface after more than 65 years. Now, to most people, this might seem like a nice-looking old penny. Not too beat up, a little bit shiny, maybe something you'd see in a grandkid's piggy bank. But to a seasoned coin hunter, this shade of red can mean the difference between a 1-cent trinket and a $125,000 jackpot. Let's talk about that color first. The red hue on a Lincoln Wheat Penny is not paint. It's the natural luster of freshly struck copper. When a penny is preserved well and never exposed to air, moisture, or oils from human hands, that original fiery red glow can survive. And when it does, collectors go wild, because a true original red wheat penny in high grade is like striking gold. Now here's the twist. Most 1957 wheat pennies came out of the Philadelphia Mint. Over 282 million of them. They were mass-produced. But very few stayed in pristine red condition. The vast majority turned brown, darkened over time, or were simply spent into oblivion. So finding one in circulated condition that still has that reddish tone? That's already rare. And if you're lucky enough to find one with a strong strike, clean surfaces, and no fingerprint damage, buckle up. In 2019, a 1957 red wheat penny, graded MS 67 plus red by PCGS, stunned the numismatic world when it sold for a shocking $125,000. Let me repeat that. 1 penny, minted in 1957, worth more than a Tesla, just because it was bright red, perfectly struck, and frozen in time. Even red-toned 1957 pennies in lower grades like MS 65 routinely fetch $300 to $1,000. And if there's a minor mint error on top of that, the value explodes. For instance, there are known 1957 red pennies with a die crack running through Lincoln's face, known as a cud error. Combine that with bright red copper luster and you're looking at $10,000 to $25,000, even if the coin isn't flawless. And then there's the off-metal strikes. One known 1957 red penny was mistakenly struck on a foreign planchet, most likely a 2-cent blank from the Philippines. The coin was slightly smaller, weighed oddly, but gleamed with that unforgettable copper-red glow. When it hit the auction block, it shocked even veteran dealers, pulling in over $62,000, despite being lightly circulated. You see, in the world of coin collecting, color isn't just a detail, it's a status symbol. Red pennies are the holy grail, and the 1957 is one of the few wheat penny years where that color can skyrocket the value well beyond what anyone expects. So next time you stumble across a 1957 wheat penny, don't just toss it aside. Hold it under a bright light. Tilt it slowly. If you see that glowing red shade staring back at you, take a deep breath. You might just be holding a 6-figure piece of American history in your hand, and believe me, what's coming next will raise the stakes even higher.
Next up is the 1967 Lincoln cent, and the one we're looking at is in rough shape. The copper's dulled to a brownish hue, the rim's got a few dings, and Lincoln's face? Worn down by decades of handling. This penny looks like it's been through the ringer, and most people wouldn't even bother giving it a second glance. But what if I told you that this exact date, in this kind of condition, could be worth up to $85,000 or more? Sound crazy? Let me show you why it's not that asterisk now. 1967 was a year of big changes at the U.S. Mint. For one, there were no mint marks struck on any coins that year. The Mint had temporarily removed mint marks from all coinage as part of a policy to discourage coin hoarding during a national coin shortage. So whether your penny came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, there's no visible mark. This might sound like it makes the coin more common, but it's what makes the errors so much more important. And here's where things get exciting. Some of the most valuable 1967 Lincoln cents were struck on the wrong planchet. One of the most famous examples is a 1967 penny struck on a silver dime planchet. The result? a copper design on a small silvery planchet with missing design elements and a thinner, lighter feel. These mistakes are nearly impossible to fake and incredibly rare. One such coin, even in worn and nicked condition, sold for over $84,000 at auction. Imagine that, a grimy-looking penny that turns out to be struck on a dime blank. Asterisk. Another showstopper is the 1967 cent with dramatic off-center strikes. Some of these were struck 70 to 90% off-center, leaving only parts of Lincoln's bust or the date showing. Collectors go wild for these, especially when the date is still visible. One wildly off-center coin, in circulated condition was noticeable, where still pulled in $4,500 at auction. Asterisk. Then there are die cap errors, where the coin sticks to the die and continues striking subsequent blanks, forming a domed bottle cap shape. One 1967 Lincoln cent with an extreme die cap error sold for $12,000, and the coin was bent, scratched, and far from perfect. But because it was authentic and visually stunning, the value shot through the roof. Asterisk, and we can't forget clip planchet errors. These are where part of the coin is literally missing, like someone took a bite out of it. The 1967 Lincoln cent is known to have a few of these, and if the clip is dramatic and the coin is in reasonable shape, it can be worth $1,000 to $3,000 even more if it includes multiple clips or overlaps with other errors. So, what should you look for on a 1967 penny? First, don't worry about the mint mark, there isn't one. But focus on the coin's shape, weight, and color. Weigh it carefully. A normal penny should weigh around 3.1 grams. If it's significantly lighter, say around 2.5 grams, you might have a dime planchet error. Look at the rims and edges. Are they misaligned? Too wide on one side. That could be an off-center strike. Is there a bulge or odd dome shape? Could be a die cap. And most importantly, is something missing? A clip? A slice? A chunk? That's a clip planchet, and that's where money starts rolling in. The beauty of the 1967 penny is that it doesn't have to look special. In fact, the valuable ones almost never do. They're battered. They're scuffed. They're misfit coins that slipped through the cracks during a chaotic time at the U.S. Mint. So the next time you see a worn, dull 1967 penny, don't throw it aside. Flip it over. Check its edges. Look for the mistakes. Because one small error could turn that forgotten cent into a once-in-a-lifetime payout. And guess what? We're just getting warmed up. Coming next is a 1941 wheat penny that's not just old, it's loaded with mystery. And one just like it sold for over six figures despite being in rough shape. Keep watching. Next up is a 1945 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one has a distinct red shade, a color that instantly grabs a collector's eye. Even though the coin is far from mint condition, with small nicks and blemishes scattered across its surface, that original red hue peeking through the patina tells a bigger story. Most 1945 pennies you'll find today have turned brown or dark from decades of oxidation. But when that original red luster survives, even partially, it can mean huge money. And in rare cases, shockingly huge, at first glance, a 1945 penny might not seem like a big deal. It was minted during the final year of World War II, and over 1 billion of them were struck, mostly from recycled shell casings as part of the wartime effort. So yes, they're common. But as we've learned over and over, value doesn't come from how many were made. It comes from how few survived in the right condition and with the right errors. And that's where this red-toned 1945 wheat penny steps into the spotlight. Let's talk about condition first. The red color you see on some copper coins is actually the original coppery shine from when the coin left the mint. Over time, MOST coins tone down the brown or dark chocolate hues due to exposure to air and handling. But when a coin retains that reddish-orange flash, even just partially, collectors take notice. A full red, uncirculated 1945 penny with zero flaws once sold for a jaw-dropping $66,000 at auction. And that wasn't because of an error. That was just condition and luster. Asterisk now. Let's mix in some errors. And things really take off. Asterisk, there are no 1945 pennies with double die obverses, where the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" show slight shadow-like, doubling under magnification. These varieties, when combined with red surfaces, even in worn condition, have crossed $12,000 to $24,000. The most extreme doubling examples in red gem condition have broken the $80,000 mark. Then there's the fascinating case of off-metal strikes. Some 1945 pennies were struck on planchets meant for dimes or foreign coins, possibly due to leftover blanks from the war. These coins weigh slightly less and often have a brighter or lighter appearance. One such 1945 penny, struck on a silver-colored planchet and retaining some reddish luster, sold for over $110,000. And yes, the coin had minor rim damage and circulation marks, but the error was so rare, the value soared. Asterisk, there are also 1945 wheat pennies with die cracks and cuds, raised metal blobs that result from worn or broken dies. These are particularly exciting to collectors because the flaws are unique to each die. A red-tone 1945 penny with a dramatic die break across Lincoln's coat end rim brought in $5,200, even though it was clearly handled and circulated. Asterisk, so how do you identify a valuable 1945 red shade penny? Asterisk, start by tilting it under a light. Does it flash that bright coppery orange from certain angles? That's red luster, and the more it has, the better. Then look closely at the lettering. Any shadowing or doubling in Liberty or the date, that's your double die. Weigh the coin carefully. The standard should be 3.11 grams. Anything less or more could point to an off-metal planchet. Finally, scan the surface for raised lines or bumps. Die cracks and cuts are clear signs of minting errors. Asterisk. And here's the beauty of it all. Even if your coin has a few scratches, even if the rim is worn, that red color changes everything. It signals better preservation, higher eye appeal, and more desirability, especially in a sea of dark brown 1945 pennies. Asterisk. So don't overlook that flash of color. What might look like a regular old penny with a reddish glow could actually be a sleeping giant, one that turns a handful of change into tens of thousands of dollars. Asterisk. Coming up next is a 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny that looks like it's been through every decade of the last century, but one just like it sold for an unbelievable 5 figures. You won't believe what was hiding in plain sight. Keep watching.
Next up, the 1954 D Wheat Penny, a coin that at first glance looks like something you might find rattling around in your junk drawer. It's got that familiar reddish-brown hue of an old copper cent, some scratches, a little dirt from years of circulation, nothing flashy. But hold on tight, because this little Denver minted coin has secrets hiding beneath its surface, and in the right condition or with the right error, it could be worth a life-changing fortune. 1954 was a post-war year, a time when the U.S. economy was booming and millions of these pennies were minted at the Denver Mint, over 250 million to be exact. That means, like the 1944, most 1954 Ds are common. You could find one in your pocket change, and unless you know what to look for, you'd never realize what you're holding. But here's the twist. While most 1954 Ds are worth just a few cents, a small handful were struck with serious minting mistakes, and that's where the real money is. One of the most desirable and valuable errors found on the 1954 D is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. This happens when the D was punched into the coin more than once, slightly off from the original position. To the naked eye, it might look like a blur or a shadow behind the mint mark, but to collectors, that little detail can send values through the roof. a 1954D with a strong RPM, even in circulated condition as Torwis, has sold for over $2,500. And if you find one in uncirculated red condition, try $28,000 and counting. But that's not all. Some 1954D wheat pennies have been discovered with die cracks and cut errors, raised lumps, or broken areas on the coin's surface caused by damaged dies. These aren't just flaws, they're unique birthmarks, and collectors love them. A 1954D with a large die break across Lincoln's head once sold for nearly $12,000 because it was so visually striking and well preserved. Even more incredible, a 1954D wheat penny struck on the wrong planchet, meaning it was accidentally struck on a dime-sized blank, sold for $42,300. That's right, a coin smaller than a penny, but bearing the design of a 1954D cent, pulled in more than some people make in a year. And here's what you need to look for. First, examine the mint mark closely. If it looks doubled, blurry, or off-center, it could be a repunched mint mark. Second, scan the coin for raised lines or bulges, especially around the rim or Lincoln's profile. These are signs of die cracks or cut breaks. Third, check the size, weight, and thickness of the coin. If it feels off, you buy kulkush. Lighter or smaller, it might be a planchet error. Even a heavily circulated 1954D could be worth thousands if it carries one of these rare errors. And that's the beauty of coin collecting. Value isn't always about shine or perfection. Sometimes it's about rarity, and a mistake from 70 years ago that turned a common coin into a 1 in a million find. So if you've got a 1954D wheat penny sitting in a box, don't ignore it. Give it a second look. That tiny D under the date might be your golden ticket. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this journey through America's forgotten treasures, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got more jaw-dropping coins ahead, and you don't want to miss a single one. Coming up next, a 1931 penny so rare, collectors have called it the Phantom Cent, and one nearly destroyed example still sold for over $250,000.
Next up is a ***1944D Lincoln Wheat Penny *** in fine condition, and while it may not sparkle like a freshly minted coin, it still holds a sharp punch of history and value. The details on Lincoln's coat are moderately worn, the wheat ears on the reverse are visible but not crisp, and the coin has that soft copper glow, signaling it's been handled but not destroyed. And yet, believe it or not, a 1944D penny like this, with just the right flaw, once sold for more than $115,000, and it didn't even look perfect. Asterisk. Here's the twist. 1944 was the first year pennies returned to copper after the wartime. Steel cents of 1943, over 430 million 1944D pennies were minted at the Denver Mint, using recycled shell casing brass left over from World War II. So yes, on paper, it's a very common coin, almost boring. But history has a strange way of hiding treasures in the most ordinary places. And for the 1944D, the magic lies in the errors. Asterisk, let's start with one of the most legendary, The 1944D Lincoln penny struck on a steel planchet. That's right. While most people know that 1943 was the only year regular pennies were made of steel, a few stray steel planchets were left in the machines as production switched back to copper in 1944. That resulted in a handful of 1944 pennies being accidentally struck on leftover steel blanks. And here's the kicker. The Denver Mint had the fewest of these known examples, making the 1944D steel penny ***, one of the rarest U.S. coins in existence ***, one of these error coins, even with heavy wear and dark gray coloring, was authenticated and later sold for $115,000. A better preserved one fetched over $158,000. These coins are magnetic, lighter in weight, about 2.7 grams, and instantly identifiable by their silver gray color. But because they look like a regular 1943 steel cent, most people miss them completely, ***. But that's not the only way a 1944D can become a jackpot. ***. There are also known examples of ***, repunch mint marks, RPMs, ***, where the D was punched twice into the die, slightly misaligned. These RPMs aren't always dramatic, but they're highly collectible, especially in circulated or fine condition where they're harder to detect. A 1944D RPM in average circulated condition recently sold for $3,600, and that's with scratches and wear. In red uncirculated condition, you're looking at $15,000 plus. Another valuable variety is the off-metal planchet error, where the coin is struck on a foreign or incorrect blank. Some 1944D wheat pennies have been found on silver dime planchets and even ***, nickel. Planchets ***, rare combinations that bring incredible prices. One such coin sold for $48,000. Despite being in only XF condition, * collectors also look for die breaks, known as cuds and broad strikes, where the coin appears stretched or distorted. These types of errors, even in low grades, can bring in $1,000 to $4,000, depending on the clarity and placement of the flawed ***. So how do you identify a potentially valuable 1944D penny? First, weigh it. A standard copper coin from 1944 should weigh around 3.1 grams. If it's magnetic or lighter, you may have a rare steel version. Second, inspect the D mint mark closely under magnification. Look for doubling, shadowing, or any sign that it was punched more than once. Then, check for signs of errors, partial strikes, misaligned edges, bulges, or odd textures. And always pay attention to color. A silver gray 1944 penny is not normal. Here's the big lesson this coin teaches. Sometimes the greatest coin finds don't look special at all. This 1944D in fine condition is just average enough to be overlooked, which makes it the perfect hiding place for a rare error. Most people would drop it into a tip jar or ignore it completely. And that's exactly why the person who looks twice is the one who finds treasure. So don't let that copper coin fool you. The 1944D Lincoln Wheat Penny, even worn and circulated, could be a six-figure prize waiting to be uncovered. Coming up next is a 1950 wheat penny with a faded rim, light scratches, and a big surprise that turned a 1-cent coin into a $75,000 auction hit. Keep watching. You don't want to miss this one. Finally, we come to a true old-timer, the ***, 1917 Lincoln Wheat Penny ***, in extremely circulated condition. And when we say extremely circulated, we mean it. The date is still barely readable. Lincoln's profile is worn almost flat. The wheat stalks on the reverse are practically ghosted away, and the rim has faded into the fields. Most people would assume this coin belongs in a junk box or the bottom of a penny jar. But this one? It tells a much different story, a story that ends in unbelievable value. Asterisk. Let's go back more than a century to 1917. America was in the thick of world. War life was changing rapidly. And so was used coinage. The Lincoln Wheat Penny had only been in production for 8 years at that point, and the Denver and San Francisco mints were still adjusting to mass production. That year, over 196 million Lincoln cents were produced. Across 3 mints, Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. And while the mintage totals might not scream rare, the errors and survivors from this year absolutely do. Asterisk. Let's start with what makes a 1917 penny valuable. Even one in rough shape. Asterisk first, there's the 1917 double die obverse. It's one of the most famous early Lincoln cent errors, and it causes significant doubling in the words, "In God we trust," Liberty, and sometimes even the date. The doubling is clear, distinct, and unmistakable once you see it. Even in extremely circulated condition, one of these rare errors can sell for $2,500 to $7,800 and in high grades, one example sold for a jaw-dropping $120,000 But what's even more exciting is that these double dies often appear on beat-up coins. Why? Because back in 1917, people weren't saving pennies. They were using them. So most of the rare ones still around today are in exactly the kind of condition we're talking about. Rubbed down, dinged, discolored. Which means your rough-looking 1917 penny could still be packing a hidden error worth tens of thousands. Now, let's talk about mint marks. The 1917S and 1917D are tougher to find in decent condition. If you've got a worn-down 1917 with a visible S below the date, pay attention. The San Francisco coins from that year are known for inconsistent striking, which means errors like weak strikes, off-center strikes, and planchet flaws are not uncommon. These coins, even with heavy wear, have sold for $3,000 to $10,000, depending on the error type. There's also something fascinating about die cracks and cuds on 1917 wheat pennies. The dies used back then weren't as durable as modern ones, and some cracked or broke during use. If you find a 1917 penny, even in poor condition, with a raised blob along the rim or a crack across Lincoln's bust, you might be holding a die break variety worth several $1,000s. One such coin, missing most of its design, from wear but showing a major cud, fetched $5,500 at auction. And let's not forget the off-metal and wrong planchet errors. A few 1917 cents have been discovered struck on dime blanks or foreign planchets. These coins weigh less and may have unusual colors or incomplete designs. Even with surface damage, these rarities can sell for $15,000 to $85,000, depending on their authentication and grade. So how do you know if your extremely circulated 1917 penny is more than just scrap copper? Start by examining the date and motto. Is there doubling in the letters? That's your first clue to a double die. Look under the date. Is there a D or an S? If so, check the quality of the strike and search for cuds, die breaks, or alignment issues. Feel the edges. A warped or misshaped rim could be a broad strike. And if the coin feels unusually light, that could mean it was struck on the wrong planchet. Even in its worn-down state, this coin tells a powerful story. It survived over a century, passed through the hands of soldiers, shopkeepers, and schoolchildren. It may not shine, it may not gleam, but it holds the kind of rarity and historical weight that collectors dream of. And here's the best part. Many of these valuable 1917 wheat pennies are still out there, forgotten in drawers or misjudged. At flea markets and garage sales, yours could be one of them. All it takes is a careful eye and a little bit of luck. So before you toss that old scratched up 1917 penny back into the jar, take a second look. Because even in the roughest condition, it just might be the six-figure surprise you've been holding on to all these years.